We appear to be into phase 2 of
the alignment.
Phase 2 of this coaching search.
The alignment.
Getting closer to the Phoenix Suns having themselves a brand new head basketball coach. A report from over the weekend. The list is down to 9. 9 candidates. You got the pen and a piece of paper handy there, Producer Evan, so we can keep track of all of these names, because 9's a lot.
I got them.
Okay. These are the 9 names, according to a bunch of reports. Chris Haynes, I think, was the first person to report the names. Jake Fisher added another name to the list. These are the 9 names that have made it into the next stage of head coaching interviews, which, by the way, since we're at 9 in the second phase, we've got a little bit of time here. We're probably got to narrow these down to probably 3 or 4. That'll be phase 3, and then they'll hire somebody. So we're probably 2 weeks away from this. But these are the names that are on the list, at least according to Chris Haynes, NBA insider. Current Suns assistant coach David Fizdale, and then assistants on a bunch of other teams. Johnny Bryant and Jordan Ott from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sean Sweeney from the Dallas Mavericks, Steve Hetzel from the Brooklyn Nets, Dave Bliss from the Oklahoma City Thunder, Micah Nori from the Minnesota Timberwolves, James Borrego, formerly of the Pelicans, and Miami Heat assistant coach Chris Quinn, also on the list. Those are the 9 names that have made it into round 2. If there's one good thing that came from this,
the alignment
by the Phoenix Suns, is they were casting a wide net. We loved that. We said cast the biggest net possible. Talk to everybody. College coaches, college ADs, college assistant coaches, NBA assistant coaches. Talk to everybody, former head coaches. You get media members. I don't care. Cast a wide net. Gather as much intel as you can on how these coaches think that the Phoenix Suns need to be fixed. So they cast this wide net, and now we're down to 9. So what do we make of this list? Is this a good list? Well, I'm kind of impartial, because when the Phoenix Suns made the move to fire Mike Budenholzer and start out finding a new head coach, we on this program, Producer Evan was here at the time, we put together our wish list in terms of the qualities that we wanted in a head coach. And I said I didn't need somebody that had former NBA head coaching experience. I was okay with you dipping into the bucket of a first-time head coach. But I cared where they came from. I cared the resume that they carried with them. And one guy in particular jumped off the page for me. I tweeted about this guy, said, I want this guy on the list, and he has made it to the final 9. So I'm impartial to Dave Bliss of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Why am I impartial to Dave Bliss of the Oklahoma City Thunder? Longtime NBA assistant. I look at where he was. He's in Oklahoma City right now, team that could potentially win a championship. Won a big Game 7 yesterday, but has been around while that team has gone through a major culture shift. He has been there for 2 different coaching regimes, is a defensive-minded guy. He helps with the defensive side of the ball for Oklahoma City. He's on the younger side. Just checked all of the boxes for me in this next head coach. So I love that he is on this list. Now, do I love the entirety of the list? No. I don't know if I want David Fizdale, a holdover of the last regime, to get a crack at this. I like Fizdale. He's a good NBA head coach, but
the alignment.
I want a fresh start.
Now, we had to imagine there was going to be one internal name. I think that would be crazy not to think there wouldn't be somebody internally, just because they made the internal hire at GM.
Well, and,
the alignment.
It could work really well.
Trying to get everybody aligned.
Yeah.
But seeing that there's 8 names outside of the front office or outside of the building makes me excited that this isn't going to be an internal hire. I think they gave Fizdale the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
But I don't think
worth,
he's the favorite for this job by any means out of the 9 names.
Worth talking to. Former NBA head coach. He's been there. He's been close to the problems over the last couple of years. So he's a person that you bring in and you talk to. So I'm not surprised that he's made it to the second stage. He just wouldn't excite me as a head coaching hire.
And we talked about this too. You're asking these guys, what are our problems?
Yeah.
I'm sure he had a pretty good diagnosis of what the problems in the building were.
So you can get that list from him. I like Chris Quinn a lot. He's a rising coaching candidate in the NBA circles as it is. The Heat culture, we keep playing this on the program.
The alignment.
But the point that Brian Gregory was making when he talked about alignment is the culture matters here. We have to be aligned and row this boat in the right direction and have a culture that is going to set this team on a path towards success, towards greatness. Well, Chris Quinn is off of a coaching tree down there in Miami where they had great success building a culture that has got a moniker across the rest of the NBA. Heat culture is a term that we use. So another name that I like to see on this list. I will tell you, though, there are two names on this list that I don't want to say bother me, but I am concerned. And maybe I shouldn't be concerned. Maybe it shouldn't bother me, but it does. And it's something that I immediately, when it was pointed out on social media over the weekend, I went, uh-oh, here we go. Because there are two names on this list. Hetzel, who's in Brooklyn, and Jordan Ott, who's in Cleveland. Both of those gentlemen have Michigan State ties. And immediately, when this list got released over the weekend, people pointed out those ties to Michigan State and said, oh, there you go. Those are the two guys that are going to be the finalists. And it's going to be between those two Michigan State alum or guys that have worked there and coached there to get this job. And just because these guys coached at Michigan State does not mean that they will be bad NBA coaches. That is not what I am saying. But you are going to bring about an optic and a conversation that you can't get past. You can tell me that Jordan Ott has the best resume known to man amongst any of these candidates. The fact that he was working at Michigan State, that he was a member of that program. He was with Michigan State from 2006 to 2013. I'm sorry, that's going to be the headline. Just like the headline when you hired Brian Gregory was first-time front office executive that was at Michigan State the same time Ishbia was. Those dots are going to automatically be connected, and you are setting yourself up for failure from the get-go because people are going to look at it through that lens. Fairly or unfairly, that's going to come with the territory. And so I don't say that you have to remove those guys from the conversation, but you just have to understand that if you hire one of the two guys that have direct Michigan State ties after you hired a GM who had no experience, who had zero front office acumen. I'm sorry, I'm not counting the year that he had last year as the vice president of player programming. I am not. He has zero front office experience, and he is now sitting in the GM chair. And when talking about
The alignment.
he said, the reason why I am up here, one of the major reasons why I am up here is because of my relationship with Matt Ishbia, because we have a relationship dating back to Michigan State. He embraced that part of it. We wanted him to kind of create some distance between himself and Matt in that regard, and he moved closer to Matt with those comments. What's to say that if they hire somebody who has Michigan State ties, 2 of the 9 finalists having Michigan State ties, having coached there and having been there, you're going to continue to
The alignment.
kind of stoke that flame. So there are names on here that I like. I like Chris Quinn. I like Dave Bliss. I like James Borrego. Some names on this list that I like. Others, I don't know a lot about Johnny Bryant. I don't know a lot about Sean Sweeney. I look at the teams that they've come from. Yeah, I would talk to some assistant coaches that were with Cleveland. Yeah, I would talk to assistant coaches that were with Oklahoma City and Minnesota. You want to talk to 2 assistant coaches who are still playing in the postseason. That feels like a smart thing to do because Minnesota and Oklahoma City have turned things around. They've built a winning culture. Helps to have players like Anthony Edwards, but Oklahoma City has built a fully fledged roster over the course of the last couple of years. Yeah, those are the teams, those are the organizations that I would be trying to pick the brains of. So just on that principle alone, I like this list. But now it's about landing the plane because this is going to take a little bit longer. You've got 9 people. You're going to have to conduct second interviews. And you've got teams that are still playing, right? Oklahoma City still playing. Minnesota still playing. These teams are still ongoing in the postseason. And those 2 guys may be high up on the candidate list. You know what? This is a good list for tomorrow. Write this down, producer Evan. Tomorrow, we'll take these 9 names and we'll order them 1 through 9 the guys we would most like to see get this job. Now that we know the names, now that they're out there. We'll do that on tomorrow's program. But it's going to take time to interview these guys for a second time. And then from there, you're going to dwindle the list down to probably 3 or 4 names. And then you're going to do another round of interviews with those 3 to 4 names. And then you're going to make a final decision. We're probably at least 2 weeks away from having an answer on this. I like the thoroughness. I like being in depth. I like covering all your bases. I love all of this. So for Brian Gregory, the first major thing he is doing as the general manager of this team, I like it. I think he's doing a very thorough job. There are some names on this list that I think would be home run hires. There's others on this list that would bring about a conversation, would bring about more questions about Matt Ishbia and whether he actually wants to win. And he does. I think he does want to win. But if you just hire guys who have Michigan State ties, the message that you are sending, I think, is going to rub some people the wrong way.